Minister, thanks so much for your time. Welcome to Morning Live.
Morning, Sakina. Morning to the viewers and listeners of Morning Live.
So, Minister, just at face value, this story seems quite bizarre. So perhaps in the interest of those who may not have followed it, of our viewers who are not aware of the story, perhaps let's go back just to give context and clarity to what exactly is happening here. So the story, as it was reported over the weekend, speaks about the 22 Afghan nationals who arrived at the Beitbridge border post after their lawyers had sent a letter and asked for the South African government to allow them entry to the country to seek asylum. So is that correct? And maybe let's go back to get context to what's going on.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for that opportunity, because without context, yes, the story become even more complex to the listeners. Back in 2021, Sakina, you will remember that the Americans announced that they are pulling out of Afghanistan after having been there for 20 years, having taken over government from the Taliban. They pulled out. They then expressed their concern that the Afghans who were helping to run the American establishment for that 20 years may be victimized or will be victimized by the Taliban, and it's better that they take them to the U.S. to give them permanent residency there. Well, we also saw it on the media, and we thought it's a good thing. Little did we know that something is about to happen to us. That was in August 2021, by the way. In September the very same year, we received a letter from a lawyer practicing here in South Africa in Rotterport, said to have studied in the U.S. In the letter, she says she's representing an NGO from the U.S., and she wants to inform us, not to ask us, to inform us that there are 2 plane loads full of Afghan missionaries at Kabul airport in Pakistan, and they are heading to South Africa, presumably en route to the United States after they will have been vetted while they are here in South Africa. We obviously took offense, very serious offense, and we did not accept that. Well, the letter goes on in 2 pages to lecture us about our international obligations, about the conventions we have entered into, about our own laws and the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, etc. We obviously took offense. And we didn't allow that to happen, and we forgot about it. Fast forward 2022 now. On the 14th of February, that's last week, Sakina, our officials at Beitbridge received a letter from another law firm, this time practicing in Melrose Arc, a huge law firm, huge I must say, because they put all the names of the partners there just to show how big they are, telling us that, look, they represent 22 clients. They never mention nationality, never mention their names, never mention where they are from. They just said we are representing 22 clients. They are soon to arrive at the border post. We request you to prepare a transit visa in terms of Section 23 of the Immigration Act to allow them to come to South Africa and apply for asylum. While our officials were still surprised, indeed, Sakina, a bus arrives at Beitbridge border post from Harare, and it's carrying 25 people. 22 of them are Afghan missionaries, as it were, and the 3 are Americans. One of the Americans, a lady, went out into the building and said, look, we are here to apply for asylum. Because she was carrying an American passport, they were surprised, and she said, no, we've got 22 Afghan missionaries in the bus, they need to apply for asylum. The official asked that they bring one of them who can speak English, and when he arrived, they found that he's carrying a passport, an Afghan passport, but it shows that they have been already in Zimbabwe for 30 days, and they've got visas there in the passports, which shows that. We had to contact the Zimbabwean authorities who told us that, no, these people are on holiday in Zimbabwe. They arrived here and asked for, and we gave them visas on arrival, because that's what some countries do for holiday makers. And so we didn't allow them in. So that was Thursday last week, the 16th. The following day, on Friday, they arrived back at the same border post, this time armed with a court order. A court order that is saying it's an interim order, bringing them into the country with a return date of the 7th of March. We were surprised, Sakina, because when somebody is suing you like that in court, they serve you with papers. We had not received papers, and so we were not in court. But we discovered later what the trick was. They actually identified a junior official at the Beach Border Post, and they got his email, and they served the papers into his email. Because he doesn't sit in the office, he's moving around the border as a supervisor. He discovered after 4 years, after 4 hours, that there's an email suing us. And by the time he contacted us, they were already back from court armed with this order. And so fortunately, in the same order, the judge said, the Department of Home Affairs is giving 24 hours in terms of rules of anticipation to come and anticipate the 7th of March. And indeed, on Saturday, the 18th, we rushed to court here in Pretoria, and a different judge ruled that we don't have to implement that court order, which was given on Friday, the 17th. And so we didn't implement it, and the judge said what she can do is to bring forward the date of the 7th of March to the 20th of February, which was yesterday. And indeed, Sakina, there was a court case here in Pretoria yesterday to hear this matter, and judgment was reserved.
It's a very bizarre story, Minister, because first and foremost, is it common practice for people to instruct a sovereign state to say, we have people coming from wherever it may be on the planet, and can you please allow them entry because they are asylum seekers? Is that common practice?
No, definitely not. And when people come to look for asylum, Sakina, they are not preceded by lawyers' letters, which when you read them, you can feel there's an element of threatening that, look, you do it or else. That's quite unusual. And you are right. That's why we felt that we are being grossly undermined here, and we won't allow something like that to happen.
So the further question then, Minister, is who exactly are you being undermined by? Because I went and had a look at that 2021 story, and the name of the NGO that came up was Exodus, and they specialize in rescuing people who've been trafficked throughout the world. So on what basis would Exodus feel that they can actually approach the South African government in the way in which they did?
Well, that's why I'm saying I think we are being strong-armed. And Sakina, let's be honest. You said you went to check the name of that NGO. That's what they call themselves. And I think we must just say so. And we can't say anything more. That's what they call themselves. But we think they're strong-arming us. And I've never really seen an NGO believing they are so powerful as to strong-arm a sovereign state and force them. Because as I said, when you read the letters, the tone is threatening, it's not asking, it's requesting. That, look, you are obliged to allow us to bring these people here in. And the question is, why then South Africa? How can people go to Zimbabwe, spend 30 days on holiday, visiting areas when their lives are supposed to be in danger, then all of a sudden after the 30 days, realize that their life is in danger, they must rush to South Africa.
And I tell you, Minister, I have more questions at this point about the NGO in question, because during that first approach in 2021, what they stated, and at the time, they were seeking this arrangement for 126 individuals. And it goes on to say, and this, I must say, really caught my attention, it went on to say that they will cover all the costs, medical accommodation, whatever it may be, for up to 6 months, but they would also be able to cover the cost, whatever it is, indefinitely, for as long as those asylum seekers would be in South Africa. So I have to ask you, Minister, have you, as the South African government Department of Home Affairs went and looked at this NGO, because NGOs, the way we know them, generally do not have unlimited or infinite resources. So how does this NGO have all of these resources? Who are they?
Well, that's a good question. That's a good question, Sakina. A very good question about where the money is from. And also, there's another question maybe which you are not asking. If our African countries out there for sale, as long as you offer them money, they can do whatever you want. Is it the same thing that the British was asking of Rwanda? That, look, we have got bags and bags of money. If you accept this, we'll give you that amount of money. But we thought at that time, Sakina, we just ignore them and not even entertain the issue because we thought it was nonsensical. But as to whether we investigate who the NGO is, I'm really begging you, let's just leave the matter there.
Leave the matter, but the questions remain, Minister, and I think this has raised quite a few questions. Also, as you say, why South Africa per se? What has happened to the other group of people? Because initially there were 126, now there's only 22. Where did the rest go? Do you know, Minister?
Well, we don't, because remember, Sakina, we are just linking the issues because they look very similar. Remember that in 2021, when they wrote to us, they never gave us a list of anybody, any one of those 126 people they were talking about. This time around, they said it's 22. And because they were already at the border, we had to demand what is called a passenger manifest. You do that for every plane that lands in South Africa from another country, but you also do it at the border. So we asked for a passenger manifest, and the passenger manifest shows the name of those Afghan nationals and also of the American so-called NGOs who accompany them. So the ones in 2021, we do not know them because we never received a passenger manifest. Well, obviously we did not receive it because we didn't agree for the plane to head into South Africa, so we're not entitled to a passenger manifest. This time around, we were entitled to the passenger manifest because they were at the border post in Beitbridge.
Well, Minister, we're going to have to leave it there, but it's a very interesting story. And of course, the Pretoria High Court reversing the initial judgment on this matter. And you heard the story there from a Minister of Home Affairs, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi. And of course, we'll offer right of reply to the NGO in question and maybe hear from them what the story is and why things have developed in the manner in which they have. But that was the Home Affairs Minister, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi.